These Syrians are some of the millions forced from their homes by war, who receive meals from local charities during the holy month of Ramadan. There are tens of thousands who arrived in the opposition-controlled province of Idlib in recent weeks with nothing. They don't have homes or jobs. They are among the 7 million Syrians who are refugees in their own country and who, the United Nations says, are vulnerable.
Syria is still burning. There are pockets of fighting throughout the country. 7 million people left their homes and they remained internally displaced. The borders are closed. People are trapped inside. Their situation is dire. There are millions of Syrian children who are not going to school. There are people without shelter, without water, sanitation, health coverage, food. They're fetching for themselves. People are moving from one place to another.
UN agencies responsible for humanitarian action in Syria are warning of consequences if they don't receive the funds they need. So far, the international community has donated less than 1/3 of the $5.6 billion required.
The lack of funding for WFP will have direct impact on the nutritional status of the people, mainly women and children. But not only that, we've seen that the result of food cuts in the region has an impact on the education, which is something extremely important in this region, and we don't want to end up with a no-loss generation.
The 7-year war has been particularly hard on children. Thousands have been killed, tens of thousands disabled. Some of the displaced attend school in tents. Many others don't go to school at all. And about half of the 5.5 million refugees in neighboring countries are children.
In 7 years, close to 550,000 Syrian children have been born in those countries, hosting them as refugees.
And those host nations, countries like Jordan and Lebanon, for example, are dealing with their own economic problems.
And in many cases, refugees coming and settling in locations that are already poor and impoverished. And one of the examples for Lebanon particularly, there are 251 most affected municipalities that they have identified for the last 4 or 5 years without adequate funding for livelihoods and social cohesion sector. Our ability is to only cover 24 of those 250 municipalities.
The fighting has subsided across the country, but the humanitarian crisis remains. Millions depend on aid to survive, and their situation is worsening in the absence of a political solution. Zeina, Khodr, Al Jazeera, Beirut.